Analysis on the State Capture Commission and the latest political developments. We now talk to Dr. Mpofu, a researcher at the Center for Diversity Studies at the Wits University. He joins us from our Pretoria studios. A very good evening to you, Dr. Mpofu. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, after all's been said and done, after the political theatrics have been playing themselves out, other pieces of the puzzle now coming together, can you safely say that we now have a much more clearer and vivid picture of what state capture is and who orchestrated it?
It would be to simplify things to say the monster of corruption, of state capture and coloniality that is being fought has been clarified. What is happening as a spectacle and as all this drama that the nation and the continent is witnessing are what are appearing to be inter-party struggles, that is the opposition versus the ruling party, and also intra-party struggles of persons trying to contest and eliminate each other from certain positions. And it must be said that South Africa must be observed and congratulated for permitting this rigorous political process of bringing individuals, persons, and even parties to probity regarding corruption and malpractice in political leadership. But the monster is much bigger. The problem is much wider because the so-called states that we are saying have been captured in Africa were imposed on Africa, and they came with colonialists, imperialists and conquerors already captured by capital, already corrupted by imperialism and already polluted by coloniality itself. Right from its consolidation in 1492, the state and the nation state that came to be imposed on the global south came as a creature of coloniality, of the civilizing mission, and of the dehumanization of the peripheral peoples of the global south. So whilst the persons and parties can fight, as we can see, and bring each other to account, another bigger struggle remains, which is the struggle of decolonizing these states and decolonizing these political parties to ensure that in veracity, the resources of Africa, the goods and services that are available, and the wealth that lies under the feet of the Africans is accessible to the multitudes, to the poorest of the poor, to the displaced people and the dispossessed masses of Africa that have been robbed by coloniality. So it's a step towards the right direction, but we cannot say we have gotten to the destination of liberating Africa, liberating the state, and liberating the political parties themselves.
Minister Gordhan knew of the existence of state capture. So did Fake Mento, so did Mr. Jonas and a dozen others who were still at leadership positions, but they never said anything about it. They never did anything about it. So would I be fair to say that they were actually complicit? Is EFF right that Gordhan and the others were actually the enablers of state capture? Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes, more people than we can see and more individuals than we can hear of were naturally, systematically and structurally complicit in this working of the colonial state that we inherited. So more people are going to be exposed, more fights are going to arise. We are yet to witness more drama. But in all these, individuals and their parties are minute compared to the systems and the structures that are present, which organize, which order, and which daily structure the way politicians and leaders operate in South Africa, in the region of Africa, and in the global south at large. So it's a scandal, yes, but it's not surprising that even those that appeared as angels will be exposed as demons of corruption. There will be no holy cows in this struggle towards confrontation with the monster of coloniality. It's important for persons to be exposed, for individuals to be probed, and for parties to be accountable. But like I said, a much bigger assignment remains, which is to decolonize states, parties, nations, regions, and the global south. Because the biggest corruption in all this, which is symptomatized in these cases and allegations of corruption we're witnessing, is coloniality itself, is the captivity of the state to empire, the captivities of parties to the colonial system of working and governing, which robs the peoples of Africa and the global south of access to their God-given, of the resources that their ancestors and their legacy has put in front of them. So it's a minute step towards the giant step of liberation, which the decolonization of Africa, which is the fall of apartheid, that is administrative apartheid, did not actually deliver.
Dr. Mpofu, allow me, if you will, to take you back to the 28th of April last year, wherein Minister Pravin Gordhan had an interview with CNN. Well, CNN asked him if he's got evidence of malfeasance and malpractice on President Jacob Zuma at the time. To which he said, no, he doesn't. But now, a year later, he's now throwing his toys out of the cot. I mean, this renders him very, I would say, someone who speaks with a forked tongue and someone who's very inconsistent. The very same inconsistency that has cost Nhlanhla Nene his job. Now, a phrase that is popularly doing the rounds in South African political spaces is, quote unquote, doing the honorable thing, in as much as Nhlanhla Nene did. Are we likely to see that happening with Pravin Gordhan?
I think the people of South Africa, the multitudes, the ordinary people, the simple bread eaters of Africa, deserve that individual politicians and leaders carry their crosses, pay the penalties, and remain accountable as a step towards liberation. So if any individual politician or leader is found to have been besmirched by this corruption, they must carry their cross and they must always do that honorable thing of making the people the winners and the victors in all this. So I think it's owed to the ordinary people, the ordinary masses of this land, that individual leaders pay their homage to accountability. But all that must not conceal the fact that the monster is bigger, is wider, deeper, and larger, and that we have done so little to expose how the biggest capturer of the state, the biggest thief of the people's resources, welfare, and happiness is actually empire, that we must exorcise from our political workings, our parties, our governments, and our states in South Africa and beyond.
Now, one party that is making the loudest calls, calling for the head of Pravin Gordhan, is the Economic Freedom Fighters. Now, you and I know that Pravin Gordhan and the EFF, particularly Julius Malema, have a long and a difficult history dating back to as far back as 2011. And, Pravin Gordhan at the time was very instrumental in bringing the Limpopo government under administration, the very same government that awarded Julius Malema multi-million rand tenders. Now, is Julius Malema fighting his own battles, or is he perhaps fighting a good cause, that of accountability of public office bearers?
In the arena of politics, parties will chase each other around. Individual politicians will bear grudges and they will carry vendettas against each other. As long as those struggles, at the end of the day, deliver the truth, deliver honesty, and deliver liberation for the multitudes, the healthier our democracies and our developmental projects. So what is happening in South Africa is actually a healthy scenario where politicians beat each other up, push each other over, probe each other, and squeeze each other in whatever way to get to that point where people can be told the truth and people can be led honestly in a manner that will allow, at long last, that the displaced and the dispossessed people of Africa at least benefit from the goods, services, and other resources that the lands of their ancestors and that the God-given gifts of theirs are acceptable.
Dr. Mpofu, thank you so much for your analysis. We do appreciate it. That is a political analyst, Dr. William Mpofu, speaking to us live from our Pretoria studios. This is